Support Amigos and listen ad-free. Plus get cool perks and rad swag. Go to everythingamiga.com/support.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron. No dramatic pause this week, Boat.
No dramatic pause. Aaron, this week on Amigos, it's Public Domania, Part 17. This is Star Trek the game, and this is Mr. Men Olympics. Aaron, have you ever had occasion in your life to exclaim, "It's a man, baby"?
No. I've never had that. Have you?
Yes.
I got to hear this.
Well, you know, Aaron, I used to live in Thailand.
Oh boy, I don't like where this is going already.
When you travel the streets of Bangkok at night, you know what they say about one night in Bangkok?
Yeah, I have heard that. I've heard that too.
You know, and the difference is that I was walking down the street with my girlfriend at the time, now wife, and we were just looking at the chicks. And he was like, "Nope, definitely not a chick. It's a man, baby."
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, you've got to give the cosmetic arts credit, and also the people that want to go that route for their ability to hang in there to get it done, because it is. If you've ever read Immortality Incorporated, which is a great science fiction book. But he talks about in the future, the sexes will really no longer matter, and there's sort of a weird, kind of androgynous melting pot of everything. You can almost see where we are heading that direction. This book was written way back in like the 40s or 50s, But you got to give the guy credit; he saw something coming. But yeah, hey, you got to. I've been impressed by the ability to turn one sex to the other and vice versa. I mean, if that's your cup of tea, you're living in the right time period, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what else you're living in the right time period for. Hot action on everythingamiga.com.
That's the truth, Boat. You got that right, my friend. This has been a good week for hot action on everythingamiga.com. Really thanks to our good buddy, Graham W. Vebke, who's been a long-time friend of the show. I want to start off with the first article he wrote here, which is on Rygar. Now, I didn't know this. I mean, I knew he liked it, but Graham in this article talks that this is his favorite arcade game, Bode.
I was shocked by that. I didn't realize that Rygar engendered any love of great import from anyone. So yeah. I'm glad that Graham must have been having a field day when this thing appeared on the Amiga last year.
I'll tell you one thing. If you doubt his word, read his article. Because he goes to work on some Rygar here and lays it all out. Not only does he go through every conceivable part of Rygar in terms of scoring and icons, he then goes into the enemies. He also goes into the different versions, sort of comparing them. What's different between the arcade version and the various home versions. I couldn't believe this. This was a heck of an article from Graham.
Well, you know that they almost got Samuel L. Jackson to play the title character in the film version of this. Of course, it was about 15 years ago, coming off the his last film, and they were going to call it Glaive on a Chain.
Glaive on a Chain. Well, listen, I know a lot of people like Rygar, but don't think for a minute that this is the same ballpark as Krull, because it ain't. The Glaive would crush this weapon. That's a proper weapon, no strings attached, if you know what I mean. But I will say the giant killer yo-yo in this is an unusual weapon. Let's put it this way. I've always found this game really, really hard.
Me too.
If you're good at it, you're probably a pretty good player in general. But anyway, this is a really good, in-depth article. I mean, look at this. I didn't even know some of these things had a port of this, like Sega Master System. Did you know that Sega Master System had a version of this? I didn't know that.
I think when I was playing the Amiga version, I went through and I played a bunch of the different ports. Yeah. I think I did a stream of it, actually, but I don't remember much about the Master System version. I believe that this is the game where the Nintendo version is a completely different game.
I think you're right, actually.
they turned it into like a weird role playing game almost. So pretty crazy.
And there it is. If you're watching the video version of this, I didn't realize. Listen, maybe I'm naive. I was around. I didn't realize Rygar had enough arcade jack to actually merit all these home conversions. Frankly,
Right.
So there you go. Then again, last weekend I found out that there was a home conversion of Mr. Deuce Castle in the ColecoVision, and I was stunned. That's another one I never thought we'd already get that.
It was a darn good conversion, too. I saw that on your screen.
We'll get to that in a moment. So anyway, great stuff there from Graham. Now, Graham did a twofer this week, and this one just popped earlier today. My favorite 6 C64 games versus their Amiga versions. These are always interesting to me, Boat, because the Amiga and the C64 are sort of joined at the hip, which is funny because, again, hardware-wise, they're not the least bit the same. But they're both Commodore machines, and so a lot of the stuff got ported back and forth. And if we had a nickel, Boat, for every time we heard the phrase, well, this was better on the C64, we'd be millionaires. We hear that all the time, don't we?
True, absolutely.
And if you read this article from Graham, that comes up quite a bit, that exact same line. He looks at some pretty good games, a couple of my favorites. He looks at Archon, Low Runner. He looks at Hardball, which I loved Hardball back in the day. Hardball 2 was actually really good. Hardball 1 was pretty good. Hardball 2 was really good. Curse of Azure Bonds. It's funny, those gold box games, I never really thought they put much effort forward in porting those. They're sort of similar on all the different systems. This is pretty cool. He goes into the differences of the similarities between the two versions. Excellent stuff. Complete with great pictures. Both articles have lots and lots of pictures. A full multimedia experience, Boat, from Graham. Thumbs up to Graham.
Yeah, absolutely, Graham. Thank you so much. I can't wait. I'm just scrolling through this right now, and it's all I can do to keep listening to you talk because I want to read this article right now.
I get that a lot,
but I'm going to force myself to close the window and look at it
I
later.
get that a lot, my friend. But yeah, a good week on everythingamiga.com. Let's quietly switch over to the land of YouTube, Boat. We've had a pretty good week on here as well. Let's start off with last week's ARG Presents, Boat. Now,
yes,
ARG Presents, we're up and down like a yo-yo. It's like my weight. It's up and down all the time. This was an up week, and I never knew that there was so much interest in the ZX81. But we got a pretty good push on this one this week, Boat. When we looked at the Sinclair ZX81 and sort of by proxy the ZX80, we played a couple interesting games for it. 49er and Tie. 49er is one of the first high-res games ever made for the ZX81, and it's pretty graphically impressive. I mean, for that system, it looks really good. It's actually a pretty interesting game, Since we live in a state with lots of mining, we weren't gold miners, but I can confirm that when you are mining, you really need to watch out for the gremlins, because they're am I wrong, Boat? They're everywhere around here. They're thick.
That's what they teach us in school, in mining class.
And then Ty was like, it reminded me, it's like if someone asked the question, can you make a Zaxxon clone with ANSI characters? You can. I mean, it's really an interesting, graphically brilliant game. So we had a lot of fun with those. If you have any interest in the old ZX81, check us out. And if you're around this weekend, which will be the 25th, 9 a.m., we will be doing our Halloween spectacular, Boat, on your favorite system, the Microsoft Xbox. I was telling Brent, that was our least viewed ever video on YouTube for ARG. So we're hoping if we top that, I call it a win, Boat. That's the way I look at it.
I'm just not even going to comment.
I will say, we are playing, I don't know, Brent's game, my game is...
Brent's game, not a Halloween game. Don't even try and spin this horrible idea.
I've already jumped on him. He's gonna spin it. My game is a straight up Halloween game, and it's solid gold money.
Listen, man, I'm giving you a hard time here. I'm actually looking forward to hearing you review Call of Cthulhu, because that's a game that I hear tons of people talking about, and I don't know anything about it. So for this once, I will try and get past just my utter hatred of everything to do with the original Xbox and give this one a fair shake.
Just while we're here, why do you hate the original Xbox so much? What is it about that machine that you hate so much?
Listen, man, look at the shirt that I'm wearing right now. The name of your show is ARG Presents Amigos Retro Gaming. The Xbox is not retro. It's just suck it.
Now, wait a minute here. I thought about that, but really, we've covered systems far newer than that. way newer. In fact, I played a game earlier this year from 2019. So we're all we go all over the place, but we go where the wheel says. We don't have a choice in the matter. Let's move along here. Now this was kind of fun. Last week I fired up the old Coleco Atom, Boatster.
Yes.
Now me and you had a play on this Atom years ago. Remember that? It's right
long before we started the podcast.
Oh yeah, when I first got this thing and we fired it up, and both to our amazement, not only did it work, but the printer still printed.
That was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life.
But the downside of it is the printer is like a boat anchor that you have to have with the Atom because of the fact that it houses the power, which was another brilliant move on the part of the people over at Coleco. That's why Coleco did so well. It killed the company, the Atom did. But by God, we're bringing it back. I put a power supply in this bad boy, and we had a heck of a time playing.
And let me tell you, the fidelity of this thing, the video out quality is excellent. I mean, streaming this from original hardware, I was always, we've been burned before by the Atari 8-bits and stuff, not being able to get a clean signal. Yeah. This thing looks super, super sharp. You did an excellent job presenting this in its original format on the screen.
Thank you, Boat. And I will say the one thing about that the Atom has over the original ColecoVision is it has an actual monitor port, a video out.
Oh,
and so
interesting.
And get this, it's also got one of those ports in the back, the same kind that the Atari and the C64 has for its video. So I took that also will produce a signal out. But what I did was I took the monitor signal out and I took the audio off that jack, and that's why it looked and sounded like it did. I was pleased.
Yeah. I sat and I listened. I mostly listened to this stream because I was putting together my new computer desk.
Yeah.
And when you fired up Mr. Dew's Castle and I heard that soundtrack, I was like, holy cow, what's going on here? It was so good.
I couldn't believe how good it sounded.
I
couldn't believe that one, Boat. We had a lot of fun. So if you're into the Coleco Atom or just want to see some real wacky stuff, head on over and check that out. By the way, the multi-card I used, Dip Switch. So if you like to see a dip, switch a bunch of dips, that's your show. There's plenty of time to see that as well. Let's talk about the first offering from our good buddies over at the Pixel Gaiden. Now this Boat here, yes. This came out of nowhere, Boat. I couldn't believe it. The fellas are getting their video on, Boatster. And this time around, and this is something they talked about on the show, this past show, which is setting up the VIC-20 here with an actual Pi, the SD card, all that jive, sort of like I did with the C64, complete with a little interface off to the side. Pretty good stuff.
The main difference is that he has that header board that allows you to plug in all of the joystick ports and stuff like that. Because before you had the key rod didn't give you the joystick ports. It was just connecting the keyboard.
No, it does give you the joystick ports.
Oh, it does. Okay. I thought that was
pretty much exactly the same as this thing.
Okay.
So yeah, it's funny. The funny thing is, but I didn't use them. I still used the wireless. I just don't like wires. Have you seen my room here? My God, it's got wires everywhere. But anyway, this is great stuff, and it's a nice companion to the most recent Pixel Gaiden. So if you want to see how he does this, he goes into that special build of that C64
right. And I think that's the half the star of the show is just talking about this bare metal C64, which strips away all sort of the Linuxy stuff going on with the Raspberry Pi and basically gives you almost an FPGA type experience where there's no overhead at all. So pretty neat.
Well said. Exactly. It's exactly correct. So I enjoyed that. Now this one, hot off the presses, I haven't even got to watch this yet, but our good buddy Jack Flack, Rob Flack O'Hare, fires up some Gremlins. Now, me and the Brent played this on the Atari. Was it the Atari
5200?
What was it?
I think it was the 5200.
You're
it
right.
was an unreleased game.
You're right.
I think.
You're right. It was a Brent pick. And this looks very similar to it here. But I remember this being a pretty fun game. Have you seen this? Have you seen Rob's?
I did. In fact, after your thing on ARG, I gave this a play because it actually received a Atari 8-bit port as well, and I had a good time with it. It's a nice little game.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a lot of fun. Plus, I like the movie. So there you go. Bo, before we move out of here, what did you guys talk about this week on This Week in Retro?
Oh, this week in retro, Aaron, it was a real barn burner. We talked, last week we talked all about the mini systems. It was all minis all the time. Well, this week we shifted gears and we talked about a new full-size console from the folks at Analog. We talked about, remember when we talked about the Analog Pocket, that FPGA handheld
Yes.
system? Well, they're releasing something called the Analog Duo, and the Analog Duo is a TurboGrafx system that plays every single kind of media that NEC ever released. So not only do you have your TurboGrafx, your PC Engine, your Super Graphics games, but you also have all of the CD games. There's a CD drive in here too, so you can play the Turbo Arcade Squared, the TurboGrafx or the PC Engine CD-ROM Squared, or the CD-ROM, as Neil likes to call it. Basically, everything that NEC did, you can use to play with this system. And the most interesting thing about it is the price. The fine folks over at Analog aren't known for their cheap systems.
No.
They've released NES FPGA machines that cost upwards of $500. So I was shocked to find out that this machine is actually going to be on offer for less than $200. And I don't know if you've looked at the prices of TurboGrafx 16s these days, but they ain't cheap. They ain't as cheap as they used to be, that's for sure. So this thing, it's starting to creep down into maybe buying this instead of the original hardware category, not to mention all of the modern conveniences like having 8-bit DOS support right out of the gate, plus Bluetooth support, and a modern video out. So the Analog Duo seems like a pretty good deal. Have you heard anything about that?
I listened to your show, and I was aware of this one for a while back. I can't remember. You hear about these things when you are in this
Sure.
space. I will say yes, that the TurboGrafx is one of those machines that has picked up in popularity here recently. In the last year or two, as these machines get discovered by new people. I mean, a lot of us have known about these things for years and years and years. And I will say, buying a TurboGrafx 16 in the States and then trying to use it is irritating because you have to have a special breakout to use anything but RF. I mean, unless you build something, which is what I did. And it's a big weird contraption you have to go buy. There's only one joystick port, so that's a pain. The joysticks aren't cheap. That's right. So you got that going for you. Of course, if you get a TurboGrafx, you still don't have the CD element to it. So if you want to play genuine CD games, you're going to have to pay. Now, I believe there's something cooking to allow the the TurboGrafx to play CD games with some kind of gimmick. Sort of like the Sega CD, but I don't quote me on that. But it seems like I heard about something. At the end of the day, though, you're in for some bucks, some real legitimate cash, and so. Yeah. I will say, would I buy some? This is obviously I've got a TurboGrafx, but if I wanted to get a TurboGrafx, I rarely say this, Bode, because you know me. Because to me, if you're buying something that's simulating the thing, I don't know. It seems, if you've got access, but this is a whole different kettle of fish. This isn't like you're simulating an Atari 2600 or something. These things are pricey. They're a pain in the butt to use, and the peripherals are expensive. At the end of the day, you'll probably at bare minimum you'll break even getting something like this.
That's the way I look at it too. And just an update on the Analog Pocket. In coordination with this release, they are releasing an adapter that will allow you to play TurboGrafx games on the Analog Pocket. And this thing was cheaper than I thought it would be too. I figured this thing would probably be $7,500. $30 for this adapter. Now, we can go through the whole discussion again about whether, the Analog Pocket is worth it. Are you gaining anything by playing, original games on a handheld system? But if that's your bag, $30 is not a bad price to pay to get that compatibility.
Again, I will say this. If you have a bunch of, to me, the market for something like the TurboGrafx analog contraption is people that have a library or are planning on collecting a library of games for the TurboGrafx, original games, because the Who cards are pretty sturdy format, Boat. And so they're collectible as heck. They're good looking, good cases. And so if you're collecting those, that's something I would recommend. I will say the TurboGrafx emulates near perfectly. So if you're just wanting something to tool around on, if you're going to play the CD stuff again, this works well because the CDs, even if you're going to emulate them, it's not the easiest thing to go and get all those CDs. They're huge. They take all that space. Maybe at the end of the day, it's easier. Sort of like that's what I think about the Unamiga. I mean, I've got a real Amiga here, and the Unamiga does a pretty good job, but it's real easy. So easy goes a long way with me, Boatster.
Me too. And then we talked about Ethernet. Ethernet turns 40, Aaron. Do you remember your first Ethernet experience?
I do. I do. When I was listening to your show, I thought about it. The first time I ever bought an Ethernet card and then attempted to hook it up, because I remember the old token ring interfaces.
No.
Well, they're old. Anyway, I knew of those, and I knew of Ethernet, but I had never fooled with it until Doom came out. When Doom came out, we wired up my house in Lexington for Ethernet so we could fight each other in Doom. So I will say, Doom probably sold a lot of network cards back in the day. And it was not easy to use. Ethernet's always sort of a pain in the butt when it comes to... to this day, I still have trouble getting Windows to see all my drives, so it drives me bananas.
Yeah. And finally, our final story. Well, we introduced sort of a discussion segment on the show. Slowly, This Week in Retro is turning into Amigos, where it just becomes me and Neil rambling on. But we talked about our when we experienced different firsts in gaming, and we opened up some discussion on Reddit about that on our subreddit. But our final story, Aaron, we're going to talk about on the Amiga news segment this week. So let's fast forward on to that if you're okay.
I'm ready. I think I hear the train a-coming, Boat.
Oh, boy. There he is, the robot flying across the screen. I love it. Mostly because it's me.
I know.
All right, Aaron. We got 3 big stories on the news segment this week. The first one comes to us from none other than our boy, Ravi Abbott. Ravi has abandoned his YouTube channel. He's left it to the wind. Probably a smart move to focus on Mixcloud. Mixcloud is a live video platform that is focused on the DJ. He is a DJ. He is what he plays.
Yes.
This is the formula. You can go on here. You can see an archive of all of his previous mixes. My favorite are the ones where he explicitly calls it Euro trash. Yeah, he's a man after my own heart.
I knew when he said that, I was like, that's thumbs up from the Boat.
But he's spinning on 2 Amiga 1200s and a microphone. He's calling out, as everybody knows, dance music is not my favorite, but I can listen to Ravi just mix it up all the time because, first of all, he's doing it on Amigas. Number 2, he's got a tracker set up so you can watch these things go by on the tracker, which I love. And then he's shouting out like one of those old school Jamaican guys, where he's giving shout outs in the chat and stuff. I love it. So if you're at all interested in some dance music, something to get you pumped up throughout the day, none other than the host of the world famous The Retro Hour podcast, Ravi Abbott, spinning discs virtually on mixcloud.com/formulation.
Ravi's a busy man, Boat.
He is. All right, Aaron, next up, there is a new Amiga magazine coming. This thing is Amiga Addict Magazine. This is a print magazine that is going to originate in England with primarily for an English-speaking audience. I guess obviously you're not going to be buying Amiga Addict if you can't speak English. But the thing that makes this publication stand out is, number 1, our boy Simulant. He's behind it. So, we dig Simulant. We dig his stuff, the Wi-Fi adapter. We hope that he brings back those keyboards at some point in the past or at some point in the future. But he's signed on an all-star cast to work on this thing. On the cover, we have the one and only Amiga Bill getting it done. Big article on Amiga Bill. We've also got work from Kim Justice. We've got work from some guys called the Amigos. Ravi Abbott has signed on as deputy editor. So this thing is...
It's a who's who of the Amiga community and us.
That's exactly right.
We also staggered in.
Right. So this thing is they're doing sort of a homegrown Kickstarter where in order to make the costs make sense, they've got to pre-order 500 of these. Now you can pre-order, and if they don't reach their goal of selling 500 pre-orders, everybody's getting their money back. So you don't have to worry about that. This thing is on sale for £4.50 plus shipping, or you can purchase a digital edition. Aaron, I know that you and I are going to be purchasing an issue of this. We really hope this thing gets off the ground because, the main problem with a lot of print Amiga magazines is they look beautiful. They're well laid out. The graphics are amazing, but a lot of them they originate in other countries and they're translated. And the translator, God bless the translators, they're doing the best they can, but nothing really flows the way it should, like it's written in its own native language. Whether you're reading Dostoevsky or you're reading Amiga Addict, you want to try and read stuff in the original language if you can. So I'm really excited to have something coming straight out of the heart of Amiga country, straight out of England, where it was not a non-factor like it was here in the United States. I can't wait to check out Amiga Addict. And if you're interested in writing, you can actually join the Amiga Addict Discord server and get involved. So this is over at simulant.uk/shop. You can click on the link to Amiga Addict and get all the details there.
Yeah, it looks good. The layout looks good. I have a boost of confidence with Ravi near the helm as well, because I know Ravi has an attention to detail and that I respect, which also as does Bill, Kim Justice. These are all quality folks that doing the work. I think it should be a good issue, and it should be a lot of fun, and hopefully this will get off the ground. I think that listen, like I said, full disclosure, we probably write a couple things for this, but the truth be told, when I first heard about this, the first thing I look at is the price. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you know me, good old cheapie. All right. Hey, listen, the price that's a darn good price. In my opinion.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's cheap. And so I figure take a chance, drop a $5 on this sucker or whatever. I think it'll be fun. If Bill's in there and Kim Justice, it's gonna be gold. That's the way I look at it. It should be a lot of fun. Simula does quality work. I've got one of his little gizmos right here. It's good stuff. So give it a shot, won't you?
And finally, Aaron, Ami West continues on. You may remember, Aaron, that we cut a promo for Ami West the other day. And,
oh, God, I forgot about that. Oh, God.
Yeah, and it is going to be brought live get-together. Live virtual get-together over at GoToMeeting. I've posted that link in our show notes that you can find directly below this YouTube video or in the show notes on your podcast app. And you can go in and you can join the fun. I have a feeling this is going to be a very Coco Talk-like atmosphere where it's just going to be some guys sitting around talking about Amiga. I know that Aaron and I are both planning to hop on at some point on Sunday afternoon. This thing is going to go down from Sunday from 10 to 5, an all-day affair. So 10-minute Amiga Retrocast is spearheading this thing. He invited us to come. Ami West, it's not going to be the same as being there, but I'm sure it's still going to be a good time. What do you think, Aaron?
Hey, I would love to be at this. To be honest, I've never been out there, and number one, and also this would be a lot of fun. I believe this is the little con that the guys over at Pixel Gating went to last year and talked about, if I'm not mistaken.
This is the little con that Sacktown
Yeah, that's right. And Doug's all up in it, as Doug want to be. So this should be fun, and I'm looking forward to hopping in there. I'm not looking forward to that promo we got. I wish you had mentioned that. I totally forgot about that, Boat. You're a real bum, my friend. Hey, I've got a little bit of news here that we didn't talk about, but we definitely want to touch on it. This past weekend, it all went down. Speaking of Doug, they had the culmination of the Amiga art competition,
yes.
Which
I can't believe that we didn't that I wasn't made aware of this.
Oh yeah, I watched it, Boaster, and it was what I would call a good time. Now this went on. They went for the new indoor record for having a stream run. I believe this ran like 7 hours. I mean, it was long.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Can you imagine having an ISP so stable that you can stream for 7 hours without disruption?
Oh, I can't imagine that. And of course, Pixel Vixen and Tenmark were at the helm of this, making the tough calls. And keep in mind, they cut this thing short because they had animations that they barely touched on, including one that they showed that I couldn't believe my eyes. It was so impressive. All the art was great. I mean, it was...
Yeah, I'm scrolling through it right now. It is amazing.
Yeah, it was really, really good. It's all up up to be viewed. I believe.
If you go to amigaartwork.com,
okay,
you can see all of it. It is all, if you click on the gallery 2020 link, they have a categories for the hand-drawn artwork category.
there it is.
And there are so many right up there at the top there. There are so many entries. I mean, and there was a photographic category.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Neil with a pipe right now. There's nothing more than I like than Neil with a pipe.
See, a lot of these I missed because I missed the first, say, 4 hours before I got the last 2. So I'm seeing some of this for the first time. Some of it's really, like I said, I didn't see anything that I would say was a dud. And some of the stuff I saw was just unbelievable. The winning submissions were, I know the one was a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Wow.
It's got to be in here. There it is. And it looked like that's not a photo. He's got,
that's unbelievable.
He actually included him drawing this, like all the saves.
Well, he had to have, because nobody would have believed it. You know, it's so good.
But, I mean, all these, and you've got professionals in here, Boat. This isn't like my outhouse picture, you know. And I will say, I thought the art from Amigathon was really good, and some of that art appeared in here as well. And it, you know, everything was well received. Just a tour de force of Amiga owners' creativity and their ability to use Amiga tools to create beautiful works of art. So a big thumbs up to everyone that participated. Big thumbs up to Vicky and to Doug. I know Vicky was up till like 2 or 3 in the morning because she's in Japan, so she was she was getting killed over there. But a great fun thing. I was amongst the handful that stayed at the end and got to see the winner, and I was very pleased. So big thumbs up to that, Boatster. Wanted to get that in.
Very
there.
cool. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for getting that in.
No problem. I think that's all we got news-wise, Boatster.
Well, we got one more piece of news here. We received something in the mail yesterday, and I'd like to show it to you. This comes to us from Digital Mania 3K.
All right.
Our buddy DM3K,
right,
otherwise known as Kilobytes and Caffeine. He has sent us a package, and it was wrapped up like something that was very valuable. So I figured that it was. Aaron, I want to show you the newest addition to our collection here. Oh boy! Check this thing out, Aaron.
Oh my! And it's an Amiga 1000. What is it? Is that it's the cover's missing?
Yeah, the cover's off. This is Amiga 1000 number 3 for us. I'm super excited about this, Aaron, because maybe inside this Amiga 1000 there will lie a drive that I can replace in my Amiga 1000 with, and finally get my thing up and ready, man. I'm super excited.
That is great.
This thing is, these things are, as you know, these are not easy to come by, and I really want to thank Digital Mania for sending this to us. And I also want to thank, I think that there was somebody that helped him out with the shipping from the Discord. So whoever you are, anonymous, good Samaritan, thank you very much, Aaron. This is pretty exciting stuff.
First of all, that's great. It's not Digital Maniac is a real quality guy, by the way, and kudos to him. That was a very selfless thing to do, to send that out here, and I hope you can put one together. In fact, I may have something to help you here. I'm not going to drag it on screen because I'm still going through it, but sort of a lovely gift from our good buddy David Z out in Arizona, along the same lines as that lovely gift. I've got in my possession here 3 big boxes of loot, various loot. If you tuned in to our International Computer Club a couple months ago, David gave a impromptu sermon on the glory of 3D printing, and I will call it that, Bo, because I think that's the appropriate way to say it. And he sent me a huge box of stuff he had 3D printed for various computers. All kinds of, like, there's an entire back cover for an Amiga 1000. I'm hoping maybe there's a front cover in there for that one. That would be nice.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff. And then just arrived just here at press time that I just barely have looked through is 2 more boxes. One had a Commodore 64 1541, and one had a bunch of magazines that I've never even heard of, these magazines. And so we're going to me and Boat are going to put our heads together to figure out what to do with all this stuff.
Well, here's my plan with the 1000. Okay, this thing is obviously it's something special,
Yes.
and we are going to ring in the Taze Valley Classic Computer Club when all this is over and we're finally able to meet again. That's how we're going to ring in our first meeting. Is everybody's going to come over? John Marshall's going to be here with the isopropyl alcohol, and we're going to go to town on this thing. We're going to clean it up nice. We're going to stream it out. We're going to swap the drive. We're going to do all the things we love to used to do together.
Very good. I can't wait till that happens, man. I'm dying for that. It should be a good time. But yes, thanks to both you guys. And last week, Sloan Norris and stuff. Thanks to you as well. And by the way, David also sent me this awesome luchador T-shirt I'm wearing, which I appreciate that. So thanks everybody. We don't take you guys for granted. Let's just put it that way. We really appreciate it, and you can be darn sure we're gonna tackle all this stuff headlong.
Yeah, man.
Speaking of tackling headlong, Boatster, are you ready to go where no man has gone before?
I am ready.
All right, let's kick it in, Boat.
Make it so.
It's public domainia, Boat. What do you think?
I love it. You are the logo master. You give Brent all kinds of credit for being good at Photoshop and design stuff. I know where the real talent is.
Oh, yeah.
in the Dowdy household.
You're clearly you've forgotten my true talent. I'm the rip off other people's work master, and I've done it yet again with this logo. But we're back again with, I don't know, is this Public Domania 6 or 5 or?
We've done far more than that.
It seems like 30 to be honest with you. But Boatster, this week we thought we didn't think this. The folks that vote this on these sorts of things, the big boys, decided that we're going to take a look at 2 top shelf public domain titles. But the Amiga public domain scene is interesting. We have come across some real gems, and we've also come across some not gems. So we'll see how we go. We're going to kick it off this week, Boat, with Star Trek The Game. That's right. Now, I want to start off this little look at Star Trek The Game by talking about another Star Trek game, because I downloaded the wrong one, because there are 2 Star Trek The Games for the Amiga. And the one I got was, the first one I got was not nearly as attractive as this one, but one thing it did do was 2 discs. It played the entire opening to the original Star Trek in full audio format.
Oh,
okay. I thought to myself, I'm in.
Was that the game?
You'd think that's like a whole disc right there. So,
right.
But yeah, and then there's a game there. It's actually sort of similar to this. But if you download this and you think to yourself, this doesn't look that great, you've got the other one. Because the one of them looks really great and one of them does not. And so we're looking at the one that does look really great. This one was released in '89. Again, it's a freeware game. 2 discs. And developed by an outfit, Boat, cunningly named, just for you, AGATron.
I would have gave this one a pass back in the day.
Well, hilariously, AGATron does not stand for AGA Graphics.
I'm guessing since this came out in '89 that's probably...
It actually stands for Amiga Graphics and Animation. That was their gimmick.
Okay.
This game was worked on by 2 fellows, Thomas Cruza, who did some of the coding, and Tobias Richter, which we'll get to him in a moment. Thomas Cruza had worked on a couple other games, Black Gold, Cubulus, and Oil Imperium. These guys are German, I think both. I know Tobias is German. Tobias was a graphics guy. He did a little coding in this. He worked on games Anstros, Black Gold, Bundesliga Manager Pro, Conquistador, Oil Imperium, On the Ball.
Conquistador, eh?
Yeah, Conquistador. Now, get this, Boat, and I'll have to say, somebody in our Discord turned me on to this because I hadn't done my research when I read it. This guy Tobias was no run-of-the-mill Star Trek guy. This guy was a big-time fan, this Tobias Richter. Yeah. If you look on his video, or if you look up him on the internet, he actually has credits on IMDb. He actually has done a ton of work on with CGI work on videotape covers, pictures, ship renderings, all kinds of crazy stuff. And I mean,
yeah, and I know that he's real involved with the Star Wars fan community too. Or, I'm sorry, the Star Trek fan
that'll get you
community
killed.
too.
Yeah,
I know.
oh, big time. Apparently, he was pretty well known over in Europe. He also did a lot. He did some work on the Star Trek Online models. If you've ever played that game, which I did play.
I think he actually designed Deep Space Nine for that.
Oh, you mean maybe, I don't know. He worked on some of the
the model of the Deep Space Nine.
This guy had talent, and I will say that you could certainly see his fandom coming through in this, because I also read that he had, before this game even came out, he had done work on these little like sizzle reels that they would play at like Trek meetings and conventions and stuff. You know, I've seen some of the sizzle reels here from the local ones, and they're not that good from back in. They're nothing like this.
I'd love to see some sizzle reels from the. What was that Trek club you were in where you met at the library and everybody wore their Starfleet uniform?
Oh, it was. I was just there one time. It was there for a friend of mine, but it was in Charleston. I can't remember the name of it. It was like whatever, the USS something, like Hillbilly probably. So anyway, so right out the gate. First of all, anytime that I can research someone that worked on a public domain game, that's a new feeling for me, because do a ton of research. I was surprised. This game was written entirely in C, so in case that's your cup of tea. And anyway, you've got a guy that wrote this, that helped do the graphics, and is a Star Trek lover, so you know it's going to be full of inside Star Trek stuff, and it is.
Right.
This game comes up. And it comes up with a beautifully rendered picture of the Enterprise, and it loops the theme from I believe it was Wrath of Khan, or it might have been Star Trek 1, the real huge orchestral theme for Star Trek. You know, it loops it. It's a beautiful opening screen. They're also using sort of the movie font, so you could tell it's a game of its time. And then you actually settle in to the game. Now, this game has instructions if you're German. If you're not German, and I tried to look around, and I actually had translated the instructions, and it didn't help me that much. So
I'm glad to hear that, because I didn't even think to translate the instructions. I just figured I was screwed.
Yeah, you were screwed. This game, if you ever ask the question, what happens if a hardcore Trekkie writes a Star Trek game, it's hardcore. This game it breaks down. I mean, it's sort of a game ahead of its time. It breaks down the various stations on the Enterprise, and you're sort of running. You're sort of running menus from the bridge to go and check on these various stations. I'm trying. This isn't a good way to start. What would you explain this game? Is this a simulation boat? Is that what we're doing here?
Well, there was a popular CD-ROM game called Star Trek Bridge Simulator. Do you remember this?
I know, Brent. Is that the one that y'all play in VR?
No, actually, I'm sorry. That's the new one. The old one was not called that. It was called something else, but it was sort of like that. But anyway, what it was a bunch of digitized pictures of various places on the Enterprise, and you could walk through the Enterprise by basically clicking around. Imagine like if it was Myst, but it was the Enterprise.
Yeah, I've seen stuff like that. Sure.
Yeah, this is sort of like that, where you are given a tremendous amount of freedom to pretty much do whatever you want. You can visit all the different departments on the Enterprise. You can talk to various people. You're getting communications, like in real-time communications from Starfleet, from various things. Your ship is, going through space, and so you encounter magnetic storms and all these things. And the action really takes place on the bridge, as it does. And you are the view screen that you see, the display. There's a special word for this in Star Trek. Well, I guess he says on screen, and it's the screen, but it's also a window. I don't know how that works. But anyway, yeah. You see, either enemy ships or asteroid fields or stuff like that. But you also see, in a very frontier-like way, when you're leaving a planet, you see the planet pulling away behind you, and that looks pretty cool. And so there's... visually, this game is it's hard to say it's impressive, because a lot of it is just static imagery, but conceptually, I guess I should say, this game has a lot of promise.
Yeah, I thought it looked real good, actually. I was pretty impressed.
Yeah. And so at first I was like, oh man, like this seems really cool. And the game really starts to fall apart when you start playing the game. because you don't know exactly, like, okay, you're greeted with a mission. And so I was like, cool, and I don't know if these missions, I'm sure that it's the same one every time. Surely these are not procedurally generated, but it was like, your job is to take this delegation from this planet to this planet.
Right.
And I was like, cool, I'm going to fire up the map. I'm going to find that planet and I'm going to go there. And who knows, maybe I'll meet some Klingons all the way. I'm ready for a fun game. Well, the fun stopped immediately because I couldn't find that planet. And I looked and I scanned. It gives you this huge map of like your quadrant of the galaxy, and maybe there's a way that you can go to a different map and find that planet. I could never find it, so I was like, well, maybe what I need to do is just start heading in a direction, and then the map will change as I leave where I am.
Right.
Well, I tried that and that didn't work either. So how did you approach this, Aaron?
The funny thing about this is, Boat, it was very similar. First thing I did was sat down and looked at all the different areas you could go to. And it is not a small thing, the amount of different areas you can go to. You've got engineering, communications, weapons, the damage section, your science officers. Then you can also get a status report. You can go to the turbo lift. You can go to the teleporters.
Medical.
You can go to the docking bay. You can go to the shuttle bay. I mean, it's just doctor. There's a ton of different places you can go. And like Boat said, most of them have some kind of static screen, and some don't. Some just have, like, it'll say, like, everything's A-okay or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you something. Our experiences were very similar. The first thing that happens is, and if you're a captain of a ship like this is probably what would happen. You start getting various status reports on stuff that you didn't know was like, we're fixing the shuttlecraft. We're fixing the turbo lift. They would come in and you'd be like, okay, yeah. And then you get a communication. I will say all the communications were accurate to the show. The sounds they would make. You would get hailed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We can't skip over the ambient sounds of this game.
They're dead on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So good.
Yeah, and good quality too.
Yeah, not only did they sample, the little, bings and boops that you hear. This is a totally original series stuff. But I mean, the quality of the samples was great. Yeah. I mean, when you consider the quality of most sound samples on the Amiga, especially on games that are trying to fit on 1 or 2 discs, these were not compressed at all. I can't give high enough marks to just the total atmosphere. I mean, you really feel like you're sitting on the bridge of the Enterprise.
Yeah, it looks good. The view screen looks good. The crew everything looks fine. But it falls apart in 2 places for me. One, and this may be, and I'm going to give it to the benefit of the doubt because we're not German, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is a game where you need to read the documentation, okay?
Yes.
Because much like Boat said, one of the first things that happens is you get a communication from Starfleet and it says, hey, you need to go, and like for me it was go take these supplies here, okay? Well, I figured out where the map was. I went to the place I was supposed to take the supplies, or to the map. I looked for it and I couldn't find it. The map is real tiny and everything on it's super small and it's hard to read, and I got confused. And so much like yourself, I'm like, well, I think this is it. I clicked on it. Then you've got to go to your helm, and you've got to set your warp speed, the whole 9 yards, which that's all well and good.
And all of that stuff, like the warp speed, because you've got 2 different, you've got like your regular throttle, and then you've also got warp speed.
Right.
And it looked complicated, and it looked like something that I really needed to read the documentation and understand.
If you know anything about Star Trek, it was I understood enough. Much like the transporters. If you don't watch the old show that much, and you look at the controls, because they're pretty accurate to the show.
right, which is great.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, you would be like, what does this do? What does that do? You wouldn't know.
Right.
And ultimately, it would be depressing and difficult for you to understand. Really, to me, the main failing of this was understanding how the map worked. The map sucks. It was just, everything is so small. We need sort of like maybe a Star Control 2 type map where you could zoom in and stuff.
Did you catch yourself using your mouse wheel?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, absolutely. And what really stinks is, because from what I've read, I watched, and there's not a ton on this game, but I watched some videos and I read a lot. And from what I saw, this game is sort of the old rinse and repeat. They give you different missions and you do them. But I mean, there's stuff in here that I would wonder how it would work. For example, one of the places you can go is to the officers' lounge, and you can check on your crew's morale. And that's an interesting element of how that would go. Because it's something I wouldn't even have thought about, to be honest with you. You can go into combat. Did you ever go into combat at any point when you were doing it?
Yeah, I never ran into Klingons. I ran into a lot of asteroids.
Yeah, same thing. And you can take the ship to condition yellow, condition red, and when you go to red, you get just like the show, the lights go off and the sound, the whole 9 yards. You can fire phasers, they have photon torpedoes. You can manually fire them. You can have your guy fire them. I mean, for a public domain game, you could have taken this game and put some docs with it and sold this as a Star Trek game, and no one would have questioned you in terms of most of it.
Right.
Again, I think where it falls flat a little bit is just the overall execution of the game part of this. I think you got everything else pretty much down.
But I mean, how many commercially released games have we played that have been just this confusing from the get-go? Yeah. Something like Armageddon or something. So I agree with you 100%. I don't know why you'd put so much effort into something like this and not take it to Paramount or whoever and say, listen, look at this thing. This thing's ready to go. Yeah. Have them package it up and sell it. Because this is an amazing... I mean, this... Even in its current state, this is so much better than most Star Trek games. Because most Star Trek games is like a top-down view of the Enterprise, and it's like a Galaga thing, or it's lame, stupid. It's like Star Control. I mean, I know there are people like Star Control, but like that's not what Star Trek is. Star Trek's not about shoot 'em up,
Well, so I did like the old Vector Star Trek, and it was about shoot 'em up. I thought it was a fun game.
Yeah, but if you're looking to play a game where you're pretending like you're in an episode of Star Trek, or it's not something that you're just going to be shooting junk.
No,
all the
I
time.
agree.
This is a game where you're in control of all the various systems, and it's a dialogue based thing. You've got control of the shuttlecraft. I mean, it pains me that this thing, number one, didn't get released with English documentation, and number two, that he didn't take this to a publisher and say, listen, this thing is awesome, you need to put it out, because this could have, it could have easily been ported to other systems. He could have made some money and also jump-started, the career that he ended up having with Star Trek, maybe even on a higher level.
Well, I know why no publisher jumped on it. It's because the license would be enormous, and plus there are other competing Star Trek games that aren't this, and so I can see where that'd be a problem. You sort of said something there, and I want to touch on this before we move on, and that is, who would make a game like this in public domain? Okay, and I was puzzled by it until I saw the article that was linked up in the Discord, and it answered my question. This is the game of a super fan, a very talented super fan that would make a game like this. Because if you're making a game, it's sort of like Star Trek. You sort of like do a half job on it. But if you're a manic super fan, there are plenty of times in this where like ships fly by and the detail in the ships is off the charts. Like I looked at them, I know they were perfectly made. Mm-hmm. These are different, various classes of Federation ships. Did you ever have that happen when you were playing? And
absolutely,
they would all the time.
It was amazing.
They would hail you and wish you luck as you're going by.
Right.
Even all the way down to the Galileo, the shuttlecraft, the cursive writing on the logo on the side, it's all there. Stuff that you wouldn't know to even look for unless you're a big time fan, which I am. And the sound effects, he could have just put some Star Trek sound effects in there, but he actually made the sound effects just like they are in the show at the exact right times. So This is one of those games. If you're German, I would definitely give this a shot. And I would love to hear somebody could really sit down and play this for a long time and tell me what's going on and tell me how the game is, because for me it was very confusing. But it's something everyone should load up and just take a look at, because it is quite a spectacle in terms of what it delivers. And I'm an old Star Trek guy, Bo, as you know, so I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised by this one. And it's one of the highest quality PD games I think I've ever seen. It's just but the game falls a little bit short on the actual gameplay itself. But again, a fun game. This actually has a review on Lemon. Now, I want to talk about this real quick. Lemon gives this a 6.36, which is a pretty good score for a PD game. They've got an article linked here to CU Amiga, and I saw this listed everywhere, and I think this is one of those cases where everyone lists something, but no one checks it. Because I checked that the issue's not available online, but I looked at the table of contents, and this game isn't mentioned anywhere. And there's another Star game that is. So I'm guessing that they've botched it. But if it, let's go on the assumption that they did review it, it got an 88%. So, but again, I find that hard to believe, to be honest with you both. I think, did we get any Discord action on this one?
We did. We got a couple reviews this week. First one comes from Chris Foles, and he says, "This game defines the era. Inaccessible, overcomplicated, with an insane level of detail that just gets tiresome. Once you fight through it all, you are greeted with fifth-rate space shooting scenes. There may be more after that, but I just rage quit at that point. 2 out of 10. And Pixels at Dawn writes, "I started playing this with the intention of reviewing it, but this is super deep and pretty fun for a Trekkie such as myself. You can go to most of the key areas on the ship, fly across the Federation, shoot at Romulans, and beam things up. It's almost what I would expect Star Trek Bridge Crew to be if created on the Amiga, but there's even more detail than that game. It can be a bit slow and clunky, but I'm treating it more like a sim than an arcade game. I will definitely spend more time with this, but I don't really want to give it a score with such a short play session."
Understood. You know, I had a big write-up here, too, about the original show, but I think I can safely assume that most people know what Star Trek is by now.
I think
Here's a question for you, Bo, just for fun. What year do you think this came on, and how many years did it run?
I want to say that Star Trek only ran for, and I'm not a big Trek fan, so, but I think it wasn't at 66?
You're close.
60. Okay, I knew it was from 66 to 68 is when it ran, and then it ran for only 2 seasons, right?
Let's see here. According to this, it aired. Well, you got it right. You got the year. It debuted September 8th, 1966, and it ended June 3rd, 1969. Now, do you know how many episodes there are?
I'd say about 50.
There's 79 episodes.
79. I know that this was one of the first shows that really made it big in syndication.
Yeah, absolutely it did. And that's, of course, that's where I saw it. Obviously, I wasn't born back then. But the old man was like, "Here you go, kid." And once I saw Spock, I was like, "This is it." This is my show. I was a huge fan. Still am. It's still my favorite Star Trek by a long shot.
I'd love to get you and the Chud on Trek Talk sometime.
The Chud watches all the Star Trek just over and over. He's probably seen every one of those 79 episodes probably 15 times. I'm not kidding you not.
Yeah.
So let's move along to something completely different, as they say, and we're going to look at the Mr. Men Olympics. Now, the name of this, I was like, "What the hell is this?" All right. Now, before we get into the game, and you may know this, Boat, but I'd never heard of it. Did you know about the Mr. Men series of books?
So this is, and I only know this because I used to live in England, but there was a huge fad when I was there, and it's been over 10 years since I was there, where people would wear shirts, Mr. Men shirts. And so there'd be like Mr. Grumpy, Mr. Grape, Mr. Lumpy. I don't know all the Mr. Men.
Sort of like Smurfs. They all had their personalities.
They're but instead of the Smurfs, they all look very different. Now, have I ever read any of the Mr. Men books? No. So you'll have to educate me on Mr. Men.
Please allow me. So I looked into this whole craze. Mr. Men and Little Miss. Okay. Now, Little Miss, apparently, I don't think she's involved.
I hear she can't be wrong.
Yeah. These were books that were authored by a fellow named Roger Hargraves, and he actually wrote them until he passed away in '88. Then his son took over, Adam, and he's still writing them to this day. So they've been around since 1971.
Really? Okay.
And what they are a series of children's books that have little lessons in them, and they use little, like you said, sort of generic guys with these names to illustrate, your Goofus and Gallant type thing for the people in the States.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're also 75 years old because nobody remembers.
Well, listen, I vaguely remember it. It says here, as of 2015, there were 85 Mr. Men and Little Miss characters that had been featured on the series.
That's quite a stable.
And it says here that the books have sales over 100 million worldwide across 28 countries. Ours isn't one of them, I might add.
I'm surprised that has not come over. When you consider like stuff like, Thomas the Tank Engine, we get a lot of, kids import stuff, from England.
You know why I think it wouldn't get over here? Because
why?
And I think everything about it except the name would work. Mr. Men, that's no good.
Sounds like
it sounds no good. So that's a fail. But I mean, that's the States for you. So anyway, when I started trying to figure out what the heck I'm looking for here, well, I got something. Mr. Men Olympics. I don't know where they found this one, Boat. Released in '93, and this will run on the OCS, ECS, 2 discs. You can actually have 8 people playing, 2 simultaneous players. The game was written entirely in Amos Professional, Boat, the game, which is the brilliant game writing software. And so what do you got here, Boat? First of all, this game I found bizarre. And when I say that, I mean just everything about it. So on the version I had, when I tracked it down, there's this huge crack screen. I mean, it's epic. There's all kinds of crack going on. And I thought to myself, why is this cracked? This public domain game. It also says it's a Euro press release. I don't know if that meant it.
Whatever that
I don't
means.
know if that meant it was released in a magazine. Someone may be able to fill me in, but I don't know what that means either. Because again,
maybe that was just the crack. Cracking groups, I'm sure, would just put their name on anything. So it doesn't matter if it's public domain or not. You put your name on the front of it and you send it out. People know who you are. Europress for life.
They put your name, phone numbers. If you watch the whole cracks, I watched the whole thing. There's like 15, a whole screen full of photos. At the very bottom, there's a couple that are secret. Oh, it's got the area code. I thought to myself, if you've given away all these other ones, these 2 are super cool. They're so great. So someone decided that the Mr. Men guys, and this has had to have been done by some demo guys, by the way, but someone decided that they were going to make a game with using the Mr. Men characters that was the exact ripoff of Track and Field. All right. Hey, I love Track and Field. So do you. Yeah. So I optimistically stepped forward into this one, Boat. What were your initial thoughts when you booted this thing up?
I thought it looked good. I thought it looked great,
polished,
actually.
Didn't it?
I thought that the characters looked good. When I first loaded it up, it's the running event, and then I started to play, and things went downhill from there. But my first impression was that it's a good looking game, well drawn. Yeah. There's somebody obviously a fan of the Mr. Men characters, just like Tobias was a fan of Trek.
Right. I think you nailed it. The authors,
they call them Minners.
The authors on this are a fellow named Unity and Amitri. Right, and Unity, I've seen his like logo or whatever on a couple screens, and I think they took that. Now I don't know if these characters. I didn't look in the wiki. I don't know if these guys have been animated. You were over there. Were these guys just on the page, or did they have cartoons?
I only saw them on the shirts.
Right, so
you'd be insane to not turn this into a cartoon. I mean, don't you think?
I would assume they have been animated, and this guy if they haven't, this guy did a good job. I mean, the fellows that worked on this, they did a good job. This is another. I tell you, both these PD tiles are slick. You could tell this one these guys had to have been part of the demo scene from the way this came up and loaded up. Now, again, it's just like you would expect. It comes up, it asks you how many, first of all, it asks you what to practice or play, then it asks you how many players, 1 to 8, and then you get to it. And you've got the different events. The first event is the 100 meters with Mr. Rush. So I'm assuming Mr. Rush is like the speedy character from Mr. Man. This is, they didn't reinvent the wheel here, did they, Boatster?
Well, here's the problem. Yeah. If you're going to have a guy called Mr. Rush, he needs to do more than slowly amble from the start line to the finish line. Because, part of the thing about Track and Field is that you get a real sense of speed, the way that the scrolling works. Like, you really feel like your guy is running. This guy is not. This guy looks like me. It's sort of a fast walk.
What this reminded me of, if you saw our Halloween episode of ARG for a couple years ago, Brent covered this game called the Mystic Marathon. All right. And the Mystic Marathon is another thing where these guys are running across the silo, and it's very similar because this
is this the one with the gnomes.
The gnomes, we race gnomes. He's famously said, but the gnome shuffles across, and he looks like the most unathletic dork. Even Mr. Rush looks more athletic than that guy. Did you play this with a joystick or a gamepad?
I started out with the joystick. I just bought a very expensive arcade stick.
That's the one.
And I did not last long with the stick.
Really?
I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going all keyboard all the time. So I use the left and the right arrow.
Yeah. It's funny. I didn't even try the keyboard. I had my my wireless controller hooked up, and you need a proper joystick to play these events.
Yeah, you need a stick or you need a keyboard. And of course, I was using an emulator, so it was easy for me to just switch the input over to keyboard. You didn't have that option on the original hardware.
And you could actually, it's just your typical like waggle. That's all the first event is.
Right.
And then when it finishes, there's a little jerk on the sideline that will make a comment depending on how quick you are. And this is one of those, unlike say. There are some track and fields, the way it's set up, it's like you could fail at one event and it'll let you go again. Not this one. If you fail in one event, you're done.
You're out.
So that was the first event with Mr. Rush and the dash. The next event you play as Mr. Strong, and it's weightlifting. This is an event that was in. This wasn't in track and field boat. This was in the second one, I believe, Hypersports. Isn't it the one that had weightlifting?
That's correct.
Yeah, now,
right,
this worked, I think, the same way. I managed to get past this a few times, but it wasn't. It was odd. I could get the bar up, but it was getting.
I also got past it, and I did it right, but I was never sure exactly what I was doing because, like, you have to hit the button, but you get no feedback when you hit the button. Like, things just sort of happen. I really like the camera viewpoint from this event. Unlike Hypersports, where it basically shows you on the track lifting a weight. In this event, you're on a stage, like you're in like a stage production, and the camera is seated behind the audience, so you see the back of audience heads. Very cool. It's a very well drawn. I just wish that this event would have been a little bit more clear with what you need to do.
Yeah, because there's these little lights. You have to hold the bar for a certain amount of time. It was weird, but I did manage to get past it. More than once, and I was always happy that I had. So the next event, and this is the event of doom right here for me, and this was the old hammer throw boat. Now I usually am pretty good at the hammer throw, and this is another one. You're playing Mr. Dizzy, he spins around and throws a hammer. It's just like you would expect it to be. The problem with this event was, and I, by the way, never got past this. The rest of the events I had to just experience and practice. Is I don't know how to win. I kept throwing the hammer at a good angle.
Well, here's the thing. This is the key. You have to play it different than you do track and field.
Okay. What did I do wrong?
In track and field, you have to stop the hammer when it's in between the two lines. Right. In this game, you have to stop the hammer before it gets to the outside line.
Oh, that would explain it then. Yeah. Oh, that's stupid. That's a stupid way to do it.
If you're going to copy a game, you need to copy the mechanics because people get confused.
That's right. So after the hammer throw, you've got the pole vault. This I thought was interesting with Mr. Nosy. Mr. Nosy doesn't need a pole. He just runs up and vaults with his nose.
This was probably my favorite of the events,
just
because watching Mr. Nosy hit the ground with his nose and bound up into the airborne over the. I loved it. That was great.
Also, like when you successfully complete it, he always lands on his feet. He's like a cat.
Yeah, he does. He's Mr. Nosy.
Yeah, Mr. Nosy. This was pretty fun. Again, it's exactly what you would expect that event to be. And then the last event is the Javelin. The Javelin features a bunch of guys in it. It's got because the Javelin's a thing. Let me see if I've got their names here. It's the pole has a name. The Javelin has a name. The guy has a name. Mr. Tickle and Mr. Skinny. I'm assuming Mr. Skinny is the pole, the Javelin, and Mr. Tickle is the guy with the wavy arms.
I think
Again, this works just like you would expect. You run up to the line and you throw it. Now, when you throw this one, unlike, say, track and field, there is no animated part where it shows you. I mean, they show you the stick going through the air, but it's the same every time, and it's stupid. For whatever reason, I could never do very well at this event. I thought I was doing pretty well.
It's because you've also not played this one correctly. So when you launch the stick through the air, the reason why it's the same every time is because you have to push the button rapidly to make Mr. Skinny flap his arms and gain altitude and actually give you enough purchase.
I didn't even know about that, Boat. Look at you. Good for you, Boat. All right, outstanding. Well, there you go. You're up my game. So once you finish each event, there's a high score table. I think it even saves the scores between games, which is cool. You know, how do you appraise this one? But I mean, it's a clear ripoff. But what did you think of it overall?
Yeah. Well, the problem is that it's just not very much fun. Track and field, even on its own, even original Track and Field, you couldn't release that game in 1993. I mean, the world had moved on past the Waggle games.
Yeah.
And so, that's its first problem. The second problem is, like I said, there's no sense of speed in the running events. You need to have your guys just move faster because you're waggling like crazy, and you want to see your guy correspond to the amount of effort that you're putting in. It's like you're killing yourself and the guy on the screen is just out on a Sunday scroll. So that's no good. However, in this game's favor, none of the events were impossible for me to get past. I was able to get through all of them. And so that was cool. The strength of Track and Field also is being able to go against another player. You said that there were 2 players simultaneous events. I never, did that. But maybe that would have added some fun. But
I didn't
at
either.
The end of the day,
that's what it's written up. That's why it's written up.
Right.
I didn't get to play.
At the end of the day, this is it's a well done clone featuring some amusing characters. I hate this phrase, but it is what it is. It's not a horrible game. It's not a great game. It's a solidly average title.
For a PD game, I think I'd give it thumbs up. I'll be honest with you. I thought it was
yeah.
If this was a budget title, I'd even give it thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing more. Did we get any discords on this one, Boatster?
We did. We got a couple reviews in the old Discord. Let's see. We'll start with Chris Folds again. He says, I was actually looking forward to this. I love me some Daley Thompson, and I love the Mr. Min books. A match made in heaven, I thought. Shame it was made in the gates of hell. A dull, uninspired, and badly executed waggle and field game. 2 out of 10. Double 2s for Chris this week. Frodo and L writes, I never tried playing this, but I found it so bad I gave up after 10 minutes. Very boring and badly executed. 2 out of 10. Pixels of Dawn writes, Wagglefests were common in Amiga PD, and this game is no exception. I didn't expect much, and I didn't get much in return. It actually starts off okay. The graphics are half-decent representations of the Roger Hargraves characters. Mr. Rush and Mr. Strong's events are pretty fun, the latter being my favorite, and Mr. Nosey's pole vault made me laugh. Unfortunately, Mr. Dizzy and Mr. Tickle's events employ canned animations for the action, which really disconnects you from the game. Again, I think some people didn't realize that you could flap Mr. Stick.
Yeah, that's good.
There.
You're probably right.
And that's about it. Once you've played through the events, there's not much reason to replay. The sounds are pretty ear-piercing, too. Okay, but not one to return to. 3 out of 10. So not much love for either of the games.
I think we like both
week.
These games more than pretty much anyone else.
I agree.
This is going to sound sad, but
I'm just glad we didn't have to play another Julian Gollop game this week.
Listen, we set the bar real low on the Public Domainia because we and almost always, I'm pretty impressed. And these games both had panache and style. The Star Trek game had some deep detail, and so there's potential in that one. And this one, the other one, is what it is, like you said, Mr. Man, fun, a light, fun romp boat, if you will.
I'd play this one during Computer Club with a couple cold ones.
Absolutely, but I agree with you on that one, my friend. Very good. So there you go.
All right. Well, let's cycle back to some community updates this week, Aaron. We have our high score challenge going on. New, fresh, hot off the presses high score challenge for our Amiga high score challenge. Outrun is the game. Outrun, not one of the better arcade ports for the Amiga. In fact, some may call it the worst. However, it is this month's high score challenge. The close date is the 20th of November, so get your scores in early. This just was released today, so we have no scores to speak of so far this week. But I know I will be submitting a score.
I'll be submitting.
Over on our Specky high score page, we have Rampage, of course, is the challenge, and this thing closes quickly. Just in a couple weeks, we have a wide field of contention. 9 entries so far. D-Man holding strong with a score of 78,380. Steve Rasmussen in second, and Z9K9 in third. I'm rounding out the bottom on this one, Aaron, with a pathetic score. I'm just not much good at Rampage. It seems like you ought to get involved in this one, Aaron, because I know Rampage is your game.
How does this one stack up to the Coco one that you played, man?
This is one of these games that what they did was they drew the sprites very detailed, but there's color clash to beat the band, as you can imagine.
You gotta have color clash though, man.
Yeah, I would say that this is it's a pretty solid port. It's definitely better than the Nintendo port, and of course, nothing can beat the Coco port as far as home conversions. But this one's pretty good.
Very good.
All right, Aaron.
Oh, what I thought of one more thing. International Computer Club. I'm going to say it again. December 12th. If you are down with the clown, want to get your ICC on, we are getting the band back together. There's a sign-up sheet in the Discord International Computer Club area. If you're interested in providing a lecture, showing a video, producing a video to be shown, literally anything. We'll do anything. I mean, we're down boat to do anything. Shoot it over. Everyone's invited, and if you're in the Discord, you are invited to get involved in the actual festivities. So sign up today, boat.
I'm personally tickled that last International Computer Club you fretted about the word presentation because you thought it sounded too intimidating, so you replaced it with lecture.
That's right. Listen, I was proven. Maybe I was a little underestimating what would happen, but I was pleasantly surprised. I think we had a great time. We've got some good lecturers out there too, Boat. So I think people can make it go.
All right, Aaron, we need to thank our Twitch subscribers. Back in the day, we used to stream this show live on Twitch. It was a glorious time. And we plan to return as soon as the internet allows us to.
You're killing us over here.
For some reason, if you are listening at home, which is all of you, or on the road, wherever you listen, we are somehow able to see each other clearly on Skype, to record our audio through Zencaster, and to look things up on the internet. But for whatever reason, Twitch just doesn't want to play with us. We can't figure it out.
We can't stream. That's what we're saying.
We can't stream. So if you have any ideas on what we can check on to fix that, please let us know, because we've tried everything we can think of and we just can't figure it out.
I replaced the string and the 2 tin cans. Nothing worked.
Yes. So, but we do want to thank our bevy of Twitch subscribers. You can support us through Twitch, either through Prime or through a traditional subscription. It helps us out a lot. We got Hamo1 with us, Roshi MSX, Gary Heather, Tom Servo 1970.
Oh yeah,
Edvin Helen. Oh, you know about Tom Servo?
Tom Servo, yeah, from Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah, he's there. Let's see, Z9K9, RMC Retro, Negsol, Frodo NL, Jigglebox, Uber Scuba Diver, welcome back, Uber Scuba Diver, Mitsuyama, Johnny Renegade, David Zinaz, Eeyore 4077, 48K Ram, Old B Sturgeon, Christian Russell, Amiga Live, The Slow Norris, Brock 101, Barkbit, Treyguard 82, Pints and Amiga, Hermsky, Zorglub 45, and Lamatza. And if you are a new Twitch subscriber, you get full access to our Discord server as well. So send me a message, john@amigospodcast.com, and I can send you the invite link for that. That is open to all of our Twitch subscribers. Aaron, we have one more community update. There is a new channel on our Discord. There's a lot of folks that like to get together before we start recording on Fridays, because it's late in the evening for the Europeans, and get some Amiga Live on, sort of get them all primed and ready for the show. Figgy CTZ is he's running that show. We have a new channel, the Amiga Live gaming channel, over on Discord. So if you're interested in getting some Amiga Live on, check that out, and Figgy will be providing you with some more details. Figgy CTZ. Last week, Aaron, our Patreon song challenge was Just Can't Get Enough by Depeche Mode.
Okay. Wow, I didn't get
You know what Depeche Mode means, Aaron?
What's it mean?
It means fast fashion.
Oh, okay.
That's what Depeche Mode means. Pixels at Dawn got it. Barkbit got it. Frodo NL, Rob Flack O'Hara, Jigglebox, The Slow Norse, Mitsoyama, and Zorglub. Congratulations, guys. You're all winners. Good work picking that one out. If you know this week's Patreon Song Challenge, send me an email at john@amigospodcast.com, and I'd be happy to announce you as a winner on next week's show. Heavy Systems Inc., Monday, Frag Lord 6620. Marked by Lund, Olaf Ho. Hermsky, Jonah, A.K. Simulant, Jeremy Jones. Ethan Little, Alien Breeder. Dave Velociraptor. Calber Boy, Lane Denson. Luke Hudson, John Cook, Bomb the Bass. Roshi, Frodo, NL. Soul Incisor, Tech Mage, Jurgen, Mr. Cola, Daniel Williams, Vernon Lucas, Jerry Dennington, Zorglub, Commodore Kid, Reflection, Simon Lech, Captain Crispy, Kilobytes and Caffeine, Gary Heather, Free Lunch, Kate Fox, David Pickford, Cameron Armstrong, Andy Jones, Lobsterminator, 10-minute Amiga Retrocast, Burnock Win, RMC, Tim Drew, Simon Rose, Joseph Harrison, Kyle Eder, Rob O'Hara, Matthew Larimore, Andy Craig, Sean Zobachman, Roland Burke, Andrew Monks, Joe the Zombie, Leaf Kellon, Alan Kebab, Chicote Level Low, John Marshall, Matthew Perron, Ricky DeRoche, Creepy Dead Boy, Figgy CTZ, The Slow Norris, Stefan Sorgard, Morton Son, Evan Helen, Blendo 75, Christopher Hassel, Rabbi Abacris, Foles Green Catcher, Laura Giroux. It's the remix. Graham Bepke, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's Retro Vintage, Gary Hackasey, Brawl Harrington, Duncan Styles, Tate from the Crypt, Josh Nan, Adam Bradley, Jonas Rulo, THT, Eric Nelson, Kim Tommy Humberstad, Daniel Bangston, Brutal Barracuda, Darren Coles, Jason Warnes, Pixels of Dawn, and Kjolbjorn Barman.
Wow. I thought I had it, and then you remixed it. No, I'm not so sure.
Well, that was the remix.
Oh,
that's how it goes.
Can you demix that, Boat?
That's what I do in post.
Oh, God.
Aaron, next week, it's our Halloween show. If there's one thing you can count on, it's a Halloween show.
Let's get another Elvira in, Boat. Or a Fright Night. What do we got?
It's a shame that we wasted all the Elvira games on one episode.
Yeah.
We could still be talking about them. We're doing BloodNet, Aaron. I think you've covered this on ARG Presents, haven't you? Haven't you done BloodNet?
I have some knowledge of this one, Boat. BloodNet.
Well, other than your and Brent's comments, I have little to no knowledge of BloodNet. This one is by Paul, a.k.a. Hermsky. He's suggested this to the AGSC. I'm looking forward to it, Aaron.
The perfect Halloween game, Boat.
Hopefully, this time next week, we will be back large and in charge with the chat. We got nobody to thank in the chat because our stream is not working.
I'm sorry, guys.
But next week, hopefully for the Halloween Spectacular, we will have some chat. We'll have some good times. So, guys, thanks as always for listening. We really appreciate it, and we will see you next week for BloodNet. Until then,
adios.
Adios.